Greg Skinner joins me on the podcast today. Greg is a long-time Muriwai resident, a local surfer, the president of Maori Bay Boardriders, and the owner of local events production business Roller Coaster. Greg talks about his contribution to the recovery and restoration period in Muriwai. Greg coordinated a paddle out for the boys.
Craig Stevens, one of the firemen who sadly passed away, had just joined our committee that year actually. Brought a lot of energy. He was an ex-professional BMX rider, and so it hit us pretty hard, and we really wanted to do something to recognise him and Dave, who was a kite surfer as well. So we had the paddle out in Maukatia.
We discuss awareness of weather events and actions being taken, what he's learned about himself and his organisation, the challenges on the night of the cyclone, and the local volunteer firefighters' awesome contributions.
They had to make decisions on the night that no one had ever had to make before, and it affected a whole community what that decision was, and their decision to evacuate at that time, I think, saved a lot of lives. Hello everybody, Greg Skinner here, Muriwai resident. Over 20 years now. I live back in the valley, Taiapa Road. Originally when I came out here, I rented a house up on Marutara, up by the Top Shop, 166. We were there for about 7 years renting, then we bought some property in Taiapa Road, put a removal house on, and we've been there ever since. So I think 2005 came out to Muriwai. Mainly because I'm a surfer, and so I wanted to be close to somewhere I could obviously go to the beach and surf. So that was the initial reason I came here, basically. Good decision. 2 girls we had out here. Lexi was actually born here. She was born in Marutara Road in the rental house, which sadly now is no longer there, which was quite a shock for that to all happen, even though we didn't live there anymore. So Ruby and Lexi, who are now 21 and 18. Yeah.
Before the Cyclone Gabrielle, what were you expecting and what had you heard?
Like most surfers, always following the weather patterns, and especially cyclones, and hoping for some good waves that could pop up on the east coast or create some good easterlies for surfing here. I was aware of it, not really thinking too much about it hitting us, but always being prepared. And I think on the day before the cyclone, quite an overcast day, quite nice little waves at Maori Bay or Maukatia. I remember surfing there and just had a funny feeling about the day. It was really grey, heaps of kids out in the water, and just a good day for kids to surf, and we're having a good time, but you could just feel the storm brewing that day. And that would have been, I guess that was the 12th of February. We're tracking it, watching it, but not too concerned, not thinking, it's going to really hit us or anything like that. And there had not really been any warning that I know of. So I went home from my surf. Anne and I were at home. Ruby's not at home. She's in Dunedin. So Lexi actually went to Muriwai to stay with a friend up on Io Road. So she wasn't home. It started getting obviously quite windy. I went to bed, and basically where we live is no reception. So unless I'm on the Wi-Fi, I'm not really connected. And often when I go to bed, I just put my phone to airplane mode. So I kind of just went to bed. I woke up about, I want to say 2 or 3 in the morning, and it sounded like there's a helicopter above my house. Like, it was so intense, and we've got a good solid house. We're out in the open. There's no trees. There's no real sort of hills or anything like that. But I just couldn't believe the sound of it. And so I went back to sleep, and then an hour later I woke up and I switched my phone on just to see what was going on. And straight away was hit with, 20 or 30 messages. A friend of mine, Craig, is in the life. He's a lifeguard out at Muriwai, and he'd been trying to get hold of us in the valley just to see if we were okay. And obviously lots of messages dropping in, things happening, and then the first concern was, Lexi's out the beach. So we woke up and got up. It's just getting light, and so contacted the parents, got hold of them. They were all okay. But the husband was a firefighter, so he was still out and about. and they did have some news that something had happened out there, so that was pretty crazy. So I jumped in my ute. As I went to my ute, I thought the wind was still howling, and I thought, I'm going to grab my chainsaw because I've been up my road before, type of road, and trees can be down or branches and stuff. So I grabbed my chainsaw, my skill saw, chucked it in my ute, went up the road, and sure enough, there was trees and everything on the road. There was some power lines sparking on the road at the top by Constable, but I managed to drive all around it and get up to our road and then get to their place. Yeah, I got in there and saw Tina. It was the Dons, and saw them, and it was obviously pretty upsetting because I didn't really know the scale of it until she told me. Hit pretty hard, and
Your skills come in handy often in the community. Can you tell us what job you do?
It's quite a long story, but I'll try and keep it short. But events production is what we do at my company, Roller Coaster, and it's design and build for events and TV shows. Spent most of my adult life working in the events industry, designing and building things, working on music festival sites. Worked on the Big Day Out for 10 years as a site manager, so quite practical jobs, managing people, vehicles, site requirements, staging, building things, using access equipment. So that's kind of what I've done. Set building for TV shows like Outrageous Fortune I've worked on. Taskmaster is one we're currently doing. So quite a good range of things we do, and I've been really lucky, I think, in my life to be able to do something I love. I'm quite a creative person. I think I'm not quite call myself an artist in the true sense of the word, but I am a creative person and like to make and build things. So it's been really good.
And you're one of those guys who's an amazing problem solver. And you have been an integral part of the Muriwai community for a long time. You put your hand up for anything that's going, and you're always mucking in and helping out whenever there's any sort of event or anything.
Yes.
So can you tell us what your role was and the things that you picked up in some of the activations that you were involved in after the cyclone?
Basically, I helped out a little bit with down the surf club. There's been some flooding and things like that. Myself and people like Luke Nabarro.
Luke Nabarro is the owner of Alpha Electrical and lives in Muriwai also.
We tried to figure out how to get some generators out there to get some power going. We did some general excavation around the back of the surf club, do some drainage. Gary Wern was on his digger, and so I got involved in a few things like that. I ended up at the fire station one day. I think I was delivering a fridge there. We had a spare fridge from a job, so I was putting that in there, and then I happened to sort of walk into a meeting there, and they're obviously talking about the farewells, as we call them, for the firemen, Dave and Craig, and so I was there, and they had a chat to me, and I said, look, I'm willing to help, and I can use my events experience to help with that. So I helped coordinate both the farewells up at Pairoa, and I was stoked to be able to help. Got some LED screens in and TVs and marquees, and sorted all that out with my team, my roller coaster team, who are a lot of local guys as well. It was cool to be able to contribute and be a part of that and help plan that and help run that, and I guess take the pressure off some of the families and people. And I felt like they were awesome farewells. So a few other things we thought we needed to do. I'm also part of the Maori Bay Boardriders, and currently I'm the president, and my family will tell you maybe for too long. And so we did some paddle outs. We did a paddle out, I should say, for the boys. Craig Stevens, one of the firemen who sadly passed away, had just joined our committee that year actually. Brought a lot of energy. He was an ex-professional BMX rider, and so it hit us pretty hard, and we really wanted to do something to recognise him and Dave, who was a kite surfer as well. So we had the paddle out at Malkatia, beautiful day. We had jet skis, we had lots of people. The West Coast did its usual thing and bumped up the swell for us, but a bit challenging to get out, which was cool. So that was really nice, a really good send-off. So we did that, and then on top of that, the Muriwai Surf Club set up their little store, and then help people in the community. Because obviously Muriwai got closed, and you could only get in if you're a resident, and there was quite a bit of a kerfuffle about that actually.
Did that include you where you were living?
They actually, it did. It was kind of a bit of a grey area really, but I helped print the the things that went on the dash. So yeah, and then I just said to everybody, look, I think there's a lot of local people within a radius to Waimaku who regularly take their dogs to the beach, and also would like to contribute and go down to the surf club and help run the store, and and who always are helping the community. So we need those people too.
And those people feel like they're part of the Muriwai community.
Yeah, and they are 100%. And my wife Anne went down, and she helped in the shop down there, and that was really cool. And just such a good scene down there, and people just really pitching in. So yeah.
Did you use roller coaster resources in some way to set stuff up down there?
We did actually. Used to give our vehicles to get generators down, and we used the van quite a bit to get donated goods into the shop, and then anything we didn't really need down there, we would take it up to Helensville to another charity. So yeah, we did quite a bit of stuff like that, and just moving things in and out that the surf club needed. So yeah. The rest of Muriwai went quite quiet, obviously. There was that running. The cafe could only kind of half run, so not too much going on.
How did it impact your work?
Not really at all. Yeah, we have quite a big team, and so we're always able to help a little bit. It was actually not too far post-COVID, and things are still just picking up, so we weren't like super busy, Sort of sometimes gave us some stuff to do.
Yeah, which is good. Yeah. And what were some of the challenges over that time for you?
I personally didn't have a lot of challenges. I really just felt for the people who had massive challenges, really, like their houses have been red stickered or they're in limbo. Really good friends of ours, obviously out here, were having trouble with their houses. My friends Matthew and Samiko, just use them as an example. Your house is in limbo. We had to go in and get stuff out of their house, and then they had to go find another house, and so many people, stories like that. So I think for us, because we're back in the valley, we didn't have any of that, but we could help support,
Yeah.
And then I was just blown away by people in the community that just were so good. People like Mike Hibbert, Kenton Osman, Erin, to name a few, who just really, and Jeremy Jones, just got stuck in, created these groups to help people who had been red stickered or had insurance issues and dealt with the council, and really came together. There's some smart people in our community, especially those guys, and so I just tried to support them as well, in their quest to get people through it, because as we found out in Christchurch, which took years to sort out, within a couple of years those guys really helped out, and I think without them it wouldn't have got across the line as well as it has.
What advice have you got for other communities when it comes to the kind of role that you took on?
I think really, everyone's obviously aware of it now, but you just got to be ready. You got to check that in your local community, whether it's a surf club or a rugby club or a football club, you've got a hub. You can't rely on councils or anyone else to make sure you've got a generator that works, or you've got supplies or blankets or a plan. And I think that stuff we got caught out a little bit on, and we're quite a fairly good sized community really, and we're quite close to Auckland, so we're pretty well resourced, but the further away you are, then the more isolated you can get quite quickly. So I think as a community, if you're in a community and you've got an excavation company and you've got generators or diggers or something, just go down and make sure that you've got everything you need if it happens to help in the community, because you're the sort of person that's going to be basically become a first responder.
And we're so lucky to have an amazing volunteer fire brigade out here at Muriwai, and as you said, it was so tragic to lose two of our men.
I think, as volunteer firemen, obviously, there can be different, it could be a car accident out here, or a car rolled down the beach, or a bushfire. I think this was something super intense and something different that they hadn't experienced really, and for them to have to deal with it on the night suddenly. The cyclone hadn't really had the warning to hit Muriwai. just incredible what they did on the night. People like Andy Phelan, they had to make decisions on the night that no one had ever had to make before, and it affected a whole community, what that decision was, and their decision to evacuate at that time, I think, saved a lot of lives. And so those guys are just legends. And, you know, the storm was so intense. And when you talk to the people who were in it, those guys and people like Eddie, the wind was howling. You couldn't hear anything. You could hardly see anything. You know, it was just like communication would have been almost impossible. And so for them to do what they did is just, yeah, it's just so good, because it saved lives. And I'm not sure how all the inquests went and what, you know, the finalities of that are. And hopefully we've learnt a lot from it, and hopefully we can save lives in the future of, you know, of people. It's like when you say, if a house is burning, don't go in there. I think it's become a thing now. You know, if around landslides and that sort of thing, we can now say, well, you know, you've got to get out early. Don't go in there if you don't have to.
I feel like the flooding thing, like now we know that if a bank is like gushing water, we know to get out
fast. Yes, you know,
and not sort of redirect the waters, which is what we would have always done in the past.
100%, you know. And I lived, like I said earlier, Maratara Road in that house, and when I first moved out there, I wasn't aware there'd been landslides out here back in the day, and there'd been a fatality, and I would have liked to have known that information. I'm sure Anne would have. And we moved out there, and we weren't really aware of the danger behind us that whole time. And now people are more aware, which is a good thing.
Do you think you see weather slightly differently now, and do you think you'll be more aware and sort of make different decisions potentially in the future after what's happened?
Yes, yeah, I think so, for sure. And, you know, I definitely assessing those situations now, and I think everyone needs to in all communities. And I would say I was a little bit surprised and a bit disappointed what happened at Mount Maunganui recently, because I felt like we learnt a lot at Muriwai, and I feel like, and not blaming anyone in particular, but, you know, when you've got a public campground, that they could have made a better assessment of that situation, because there had been historic slips in that area behind the surf club and stuff like that. So I think as communities, like we spoke about before, you've got to learn from these things and really look at things and you know, identify the dangers earlier. And hey, sometimes you're still going to miss things, right? You know, there's a lot of hills, there's a lot of hazardous areas, you know.
But I think there was a bit of a storm forecast, or even was called a cyclone, a couple of weeks ago here in New Zealand. And I thought that the communications around that before it happened in Muriwai was amazing. Yes. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, I thought it was really, I know a lot of people said that, you know, it was a bit of overkill and like a bit of a beat up, the cyclone. But really, I mean, everyone needs to know. I think what can happen with them is that they are not that predictable, and they can change within hours. At Muriwai, I believe that cyclone changed really quickly and did what it did. So I think just creating the awareness is a good thing. And, you know, if it gives people the option to like close their cafe or not go somewhere on holiday or stay at home or be prepared. So if it doesn't hit you, fine. But if it does, you're ready, you know. So I think the awareness was, everyone in New Zealand knew that was coming, and in the North Island especially, and so people were prepared.
Yeah. And in Muriwai, we had the Muriwai Community Association Facebook group, I think it is. And they were, you know, making recommendations and saying do this and don't do that, and if this happens, you can go and do that, and talking about the surf club and all the amenities there that have been improved since Cyclone Gabrielle. And I felt like there was a really good sort of information hub for our particular community.
Yeah, 100%. Like everyone definitely knows the drill now. You know, where they can go, what they can do.
Do you feel like the community of Muriwai had enough support from, you know, council and other organisations?
Well, I felt like we had a lot of support, and I know a lot of people who just wanted to go to the beach were a bit annoyed they couldn't get to the beach, but for our community it was important that everything was closed down and that things were assessed properly and people had the chance to deal with their possessions and houses and how they're going to get in and out. So I think for us as a community, I felt like, we were fairly well supported, and all the traffic people were cool, and and all security people who often would cop a bit of heat from other people coming into who just want to go to the beach. But so I think for our community, I think we had a lot of support.
What have you learned about yourself going through this event or your organisation?
I think that I learned that we do have a lot to offer, and that we did have a lot of resources that could help, and that my staff and my team were like 100% willing to help and were like really committed to it. So it was really cool. It was pretty much the biggest team building thing you could go through, really. And we do, I know a lot of companies try and do team building, and with what we do, we work on events and shows under high pressure a lot, so kind of any week can be a team building week. But this was even at another level and a more important level. So it was cool to see that we could contribute.
Is there something hopeful or meaningful you'd like to leave us with?
Just that every community can come together like we did and connect and support each other, and and just it really just shows the love everyone has for each other in these smaller communities. Not saying it's not in the big cities, but I think we can take away from it is that like know what your neighbours are up to, know them really well, and just support each other. So then when these situations happen, you're all ready to roll.
Precipice was commissioned and funded by Muriwai Community Association, supported by the Auckland Council Recovery Office. Artwork by Taylor Williams, soundtrack by local Muriwai band Tin People, written in response to Cyclone Gabrielle. Ngā mihi thank you to the Muriwai community for their input and bravery and for sharing their stories. And thank you for listening.